Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to stage 3 of the 2023 Pro Men's Intelligentsia Cup. This is Winfield. And hey, if you're new here and you missed out on the first 2 stages, they didn't go particularly well for me. I urge you to go check those out, but quick recap. Stage number 1, kind of hanging on for dear life on Legbreaker Hill. Stage 2, kind of hanging on for dear life in the rain and the storm and the wind, and was able to avoid the crashes, but the breakaway got away in the first few minutes. So today, I was going to change my strategy a little bit. Okay, Jeff, we're going to get to the front, and we're going to really roll the dice on some breakaways, really burn some energy, and try to get off the front. The problem is, look at this course. So this course is not particularly difficult. It is a rectangle. Now, it's not without its difficulties. It's on a little bit of a hill, but it's not the best breakaway course, to be perfectly honest with you. More technical, more features like climbs, chicanes, roundabouts, hairpins, stuff like that. Really makes it easier to get away in a breakaway. But I was still pretty determined, so let's dive right into it, see how it works out for me. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention here right off the bat is, bam, 68 minutes, 257 watts average, 293 watts normalized. A little bit less than the previous 2 races, but check this out. We averaged over 30 miles an hour. Pretty insane, given that I didn't even normalize over 300 watts. We're still able to go that fast. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about how do you move up when the average is over 30 miles an hour. And the short version is very carefully, because especially here on the start and finish, it's closer to 40 miles an hour. And when you get out of the draft, out in the wind going this fast, it's almost like you're squeezing the brakes. And that is definitely not an efficient way to ride. That is definitely not how to go 30 plus miles an hour at less than 300 watts. So let me show you some tricks on how to make this possible. And my first tip is find something that is working for you and repeat it. Corner 3, just like in years past, was very consequential. And you can see on the right here, I found a good line. This outside line was, for some reason, on this particular day in this particular field, repeatable. Anytime you can move up like that, a few wheels at almost no cost and energy, that's a total win. And oh my God, look at these riders on the right, so terrifying. See, that risky move with that amount of power, he only made up 1 spot. So you have to pick your battles. I mean, you can have all the power in the world, but if you're passing riders when it's single file going 38 miles an hour and you're doing 1,000 watts just to pass 1 person, like that ain't it. You know what I mean? So find those areas where you can make passes for little or no energy. And that's my first tip for moving up even when a crit is going 30 miles an hour. Here's another example of me doing the same thing. Not having to commit too much energy, moving up this many places. I mean, this was a moment when things were slowing down on the left. So you don't always get that lucky, but reading the pack and understanding pack dynamics in a hard crit like this is really important. And you can see the most important part is I'm able to conserve all of my speed. Obviously, I made a bunch of passes, but look, we're still going 25 miles an hour. There were moments in corner 3 when we were under 20 miles an hour. Now I'm holding all of my speed. In fact, I'm increasing my speed now, which makes it just so much easier to get back up to like the 37, 38 that we were doing on this start-finish straight. It is slightly downhill, so we're going like a true 37, 38. But in fact, now I'm going to slingshot past these front riders. And hey, look, I'm going to give it a rip. I didn't even realize. This is one of the moments I gave it a rip. And a lot of that was what happened 40 seconds ago when I was coming into corner 3. That's what really set this up. So part of being a heads-up breakaway rider, I'm not the best, I'd admit. I generally prefer field sprints, but I'm trying something different today. But part of that success is understanding when it makes sense to rip it. I talk about the slingshot position a lot. Now, of course, this one didn't result in a whole lot. We can see in the rear camera, everything was just chased back. But you gotta roll the dice every once in a while. And I was committed to trying to force a breakaway on today's stage. So look, we're still 42 kilometers to go. Let's see if I can make it happen. And just a couple kilometers later, actually 1 kilometer later, similar situation, except this is corner 2 instead of corner 4. But I had a clean line. I was able to hold all of my speed, and look at the slowing riders on the front. I'm in that slingshot position again, guys. I'm going to carry my speed past these front riders, and I can see something happening off the front, so I'm going to commit some energy to it and try to jump across. This one was a bit more, 1,100 watts further for a second, but it looks like I'm getting a gap, and oh man, they're just chasing so hard. You can see in the rear camera, but I'm able to jump across to these 2 riders. And yeah, not much of a gap, even with the commitment and energy, but this is what it takes. You have to be persistent. Oh, I see there's 2 more riders or so off the front. Looked like one of them was Legion. So yeah, this looked pretty juicy. This looks like it had potential, but yeah, again, didn't work out this time. Looks like my buddy Will chased me back. So decent effort here, but just didn't have the right composition of teams. Oh, and I wanted to show this too. This is my corner 3 where I was trying to push it on the outside. And guys, it doesn't work every time. Like you can see here, oh, this guy gets squeezed. I end up, you can see I'm kind of rattling around out there. I end up kind of bumping bars and shoulders with somebody. So just wanted to show that, hey, it doesn't always work. I know I said earlier it was a reliable place to move up, but that doesn't mean every single lap. So it's, I wanted to show another example too. It's not all rosy here in the edit where sometimes it doesn't work out. You got to adapt. And this is another spot on the course where I was finding good lines. You notice everyone's coasting right here. When everyone's coasting, if you can find a way to not use the brakes, and even better, continue pedaling, like right here, this is almost always going to benefit you. I just carried all of my speed through corners 1 and 2, and I made up a bunch of positions. I preserved my speed. So that's tip number 2. When you see people coasting, especially if they're using brakes, try to find space. Even if it's out in the wind, if people are braking and you're doing even like 200 watts, you're going to find yourself moving up, and you're usually going to find yourself moving up at little to no cost in energy. So that's my second tip for finding your way to the front of a really fast field like this. So here, just a couple kilometers later, another example of my second tip, and it happens to be on the same part of the course too. Look, riders coasting on the left, and look, I found good lines in corners 1 and corner 3. Look at that. I mean, little bit of power. Mostly I just wasn't braking like everybody on the left. It seemed like everybody was just kind of stuffing up the inside of corner number 1. And this puts me right into a good position to follow. I think that's our buddy Will again. He chased me back. Look, I chase you back, bro. He's looking back. No, this actually is looking pretty good because instead of him chasing me back this time, I want to join something with Will. Will's incredibly strong. And this time we have a pretty substantial gap. You can see back in the rear camera, one rider in chase. Problem is we passed Legion and Blazers. We need them to follow us. We need them to be part of this breakaway because if those two major teams aren't represented, guys, on a course like this, you just have to have all the teams because it's so easy to chase stuff back on a course like this. Long straightaways like this, when you can see the riders up the road, there's so much motivation to chase back. So we need all of those teams to be represented. But I'm going to keep following this, and you never know. When things are fast like this, there's an attack, there's little gaps you can see opening up in the rear camera. Just continue pushing the pedals, and yeah, you never know. The right riders might come together. Looks like Will's going to continue pushing. He's checking. Oh, he's going to continue smashing. Yeah, like, oh, he gives me the elbow. Am I going to give him a pull? Yeah, looks like it. Yeah, I'm doing something here. Not a whole lot. It's pretty good, 400 watts. So I wonder if there's a gap, though. I wonder what's going on. I don't remember, guys. I can't see in the rear camera right now. But at the very least, I'm going to ride the front at this pretty modest speed to make sure that I get into corners 1 and 2 first. Because, look, I mean, you don't have to slow down for any of these corners. You can pedal through all of them. And it does look like the field is pretty much all together. Maybe a couple of small gaps right there. So, okay. So, yeah, I'm gonna flick this guy rider through and stay on the power. I mean, I want to stay up towards the front right here. But looks like this one is not the one. But, hey, you got to stay in the top 5, top 10 to see if the next one is the one, right? Can't fall back too far. All right, my next tip, number 3, to surf the front, try to force splits. It's kind of a continuation of the previous 2 tips. So there's an attack going on the left. You can see it, a Legion rider. I hesitate for a second, and then I'm going to pause it right here. This is what you're looking for, especially as a solo rider, because don't forget, guys, I'm a solo rider in this case, no teammates, is when an attacking rider has a teammate on the front. Like you can see this other Legion rider on the front. I think that's Ty. Ty wasn't born yesterday. Ty knows the rules of NorCal cycling, never chase teammates. So no more hesitation. I end up just ripping it across. And as an added bonus, there's this Mido Q rider who is also coming across. So yeah, there are a bunch of other teams represented in this peloton that are not in this breakaway, but this is a pretty good start. Look at the Ty sit up. Look what that's done. Look at the gap behind. So I didn't have to go crazy with the power here, but because I followed rule number 3, which is just be aware of which teammates are doing what, especially from the competition. We're able to get this solid gap. And now we kind of sit here just for a second, and I'm gonna pull through because we committed the energy. I want to make this possible. But these other 2 guys seem a little bit more unsure. Let's go. And I make a little joke there to Kyle from Legion. I'm like, dude, I'm not a threat. Like, I was like 30th in the last 2 stages. Let's just rip it. Come on, because I know he's strong enough to make this work, especially with the help of the Mido Q guy. But look at this. I mean, we come around this corner, and the gap is gone. Magically disappears in one straightaway. So, damn, I'm giving it my best shot, guys, but I probably shouldn't be trying for a breakaway on this course. But I'm committed, and with just inside of 16 kilometers to go, not a whole lot of opportunities left before everything starts getting lined up for a field sprint. And I'm going to follow Iman here because he's got tree trunks for legs. And I guess this is tip number 4, sort of. Follow people anytime you can. This is always a good idea. This is kind of a no-duh one, but anytime you can get in somebody's draft and make them do all the work to open the gap, like that's ideal. So I'm definitely going to follow Iman. He's obviously quite strong. And he came along with this Blazers rider. So now we have good representation, have Legion behind me. Actually, this is probably the best representation yet in terms of just the composition, the team composition of this breakaway. This is looking really good. And this happens to be, I think this was the lap where they called a preem. It was a $100 preem. So I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll snag a preem. And damn, Kaler beat me to it and opens this monster attack down the start-finish straight. And I'm going to commit some energy. And at this point, I know I'm not going to be able to catch him before the line. But look at the gap we're opening up, right? It was like a breakaway from the breakaway. Guys, I'm committed now. I'm just like going for it. And I just want to close this gap down, get in this draft, and then hopefully like this will be the start of something, a breakaway from a breakaway. Now we have a pretty serious gap. And just like the speed and the power here is kind of next level. I mean, I was laughing with Will about this from Project Echelon. Like in our local P12 races, these types of efforts would be like guaranteed breakaway, at least the start of a breakaway, at least an established gap with riders. But out here, it's just next level. Like you just have to commit so much more energy, so much more speed in order to make that possible. And look, already caught. I mean, so quick. Like we didn't have any time to hesitate. It really requires just the perfect mix. And just one of those days, even though the legs were good, it wasn't in my favor. So let's cut forward to the end of this race. Operation Getting the Breakaway was not a success, but we're going to see how the sprint finish plays out nevertheless. And it's going to start with this pretty high-risk inside line. Guys, I talked about the outside line into corner 3. The inside line, it opened up every once in a while, but it's a high-risk one. And let me show you. This ended up working out. I'm going to commit a lot of energy and look at this pass. Past, I don't know, 20 riders, 25 riders, and there just happens to be a place for me right next to the Texas Roadhouse guy. But the level of racing out here is such that if there wasn't a spot for me to kind of slot into, I would have to squeeze all kinds of brakes, and all that energy would be for nothing because I just have to sprint right back up to speed. So I got kind of lucky on that one, just trying to reposition myself ahead of the final few laps here because I know it's just going to be a mad dash field sprint, lead out trains to the finish line. All right, so we're picking up action here, just over 4 kilometers to go. I believe this is about 4.5 laps, and I'm going to follow this aviator. I believe this is Connor, with the helmet cam. He's like 6.5 feet tall. This is Connor, and he's going to tap his teammate on the shoulder. This is his sprinter. So actually, this is kind of like tip number 3, right? Is like understand the motivations of other riders. And if I see Connor being a lead out man, tap his sprinter and start riding up the outside like this, let him cut through all the wind going over 30 miles an hour up this little hill. And I'm just going to follow. And it just gets so tight through here. It looks like I end up getting my handlebars ahead of that rider on my left. But I was just able to move up a handful of positions essentially for free. I mean, in the draft of another team. So that little tap, when I saw that, like I fought pretty hard to stay on the aviator train. And now we're coming into the final few laps here, and you're going to see how difficult it is without a team to help lead you out. Like the washing machine effect is real. The lead out teams organize on the front, they protect their sprinters, and then they have sweepers. The sweeper position is actually a teammate behind the final rider, behind the sprinter, to deal with what I'm going to be dealing with here in the next few minutes, which you guys are going to see. Already kind of banging around here with Ethan on Project Echelon. You're going to see a lot more of that. They had a limited team, Project Echelon. There were 4 of them. But some of these other bigger teams, the Blazers, the Aviators, Legion, they had, the full squad, 8 riders, something like that, plus MitoQ. There's too many teams to name here, but I'm just going to try to surf wheels behind those leadouts, behind those sweepers. Problem is there's only one ideal position to be behind each train. So realistically, there's maybe 3 ideal positions to be on the road at any given moment, and there's 100 riders out here. So you have to fight with all these other riders. Everybody at this level of racing knows where they should be, and they're all fighting to be in that position, myself included. And you see how crowded corner 3 gets. Even though I'm doing a lot of power, I'm losing all kinds of position. It's just very difficult to hold good field sprint position, without the lead out train at this level of racing. Kudos to the folks in this race without lead out trains who are able to just find results solo, because man, it is difficult. I consider myself a decent field sprinter in the local NorCal P12 scene. It's a different story out here. Really, this field is comprised of all the best riders. Take every racing district in the United States. NCNCA, it's the Northern California Racing District. You take the best riders from each racing district, get them all together, and that is the caliber of racer out here. Not to mention the international riders that are out here, pro team from New Zealand, all the other teams that I've mentioned before. We're doing 1,000 watts out of these corners, guys, and we're still losing wheels. So, legs were good today, but man, not that good. Because at a certain point, if I'm losing positions, I'm going to have to get out in the wind. Oh, here's a pretty... so I can see riders coasting. There's a rider that was part of the lead out. This is 2 laps to go, and I'm going to just do my absolute level best to move back into the right position that I need to be. That outside door has officially been shut, you guys. But, man, I was in good position, and then you go a couple of corners. I've been shuffled back 20 wheels, and then maybe I find another good opening. I can move myself back into position. But that's the trick without having the lead-out team help you out, is you're kind of at the whim of these other riders. Like right now, it is just going, Mach 12 on the front, because we're coming into the final lap, and even a rider as classy as Ama, who's admittedly in the middle of a big training block, you don't often see him dropping a wheel like that. So that was another commitment and energy that I made, because 37 miles an hour out in the wind without any shelter in the draft is always pretty rough, coming through 1 lap to go. And here we are, guys, final kilometer. It's kind of now or never, and I know that I'm probably 8, maybe even 10 wheels further back than I need to be to contest a podium position, but I'm still going to give it a rip. I mean, the legs were good today. I committed a lot of energy, as you guys know at this point in the video, trying to make a breakaway work, but I really need to be closer on Connor's wheel here. We saw him a couple laps ago. We're back again. In fact, he's with his sprinter here, and it looks like his sprinter's going to find a few more wheels. He's definitely got some more energy than I do, that's for sure. And I'm just a little sloppy here, 174 beats per minute. I need to be closer to the front. And speaking of sloppy, terrifying last couple of corners here. You could see that was Robin from Legion, the overall race leader, getting pushed out into the grass, and kind of on the brakes there in the final couple of corners. I know it's less than ideal. My buddy Will and I meet once again, and I'll sit down and give it a sprint, but I mean, not really. Doing 400 watts. A bit frustrated that the breakaway didn't work out, but it's my best result so far in the 3 days of racing, and they'll get better from here, guys. So continue watching. We got 7 more stages to cover of the Intelligentsia Cup. Oh, and before I forget, if you guys want more of this, of more of my nasally drone for a longer 75-minute kind of podcast-style uncut commentary, Will and I sat down, Will from a professional rider from Project Echelon, and we did a single 75-minute take over this race. You can go see it on the second channel. I'll link it in the description. So good trainer material. Happy riding, guys. Thanks for hanging in there. I'll catch you in the next one.